Welcome to the Wisdom Lifestyle Money Show. I'm your host, Scott Dillingham. The show is designed to help Canadians invest better in Canada and the United States. We specialize in mortgage financing and education in both countries. Discover how you can become a better investor and access the financing you need. Welcome back to the Wisdom Lifestyle Money Show. I'm your host, Scott Dillingham. Today, I have an awesome guest with us, Carlos Rodriguez. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you very much. That was a nice intro.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Carlos, I've actually known him for a long time. I started out as a Canadian investor, and then he sort of transitioned his whole portfolio and business to the States and has built something that I think is quite groundbreaking for Canadians that are maybe a little scared to take that next step to get their investing, started in the States. So, Carlos, I'd love to hear about your story and then what you're doing to help, Canadians and even Americans, right, to grow their real estate portfolios.
Yeah, no worries. So, like you said, I got to a point where financing here, was next to impossible if I wanted to build a portfolio. And it was actually when I think you were probably the catalyst to all this, okay? Because we were trying to refinance my house at the time to get a better deal, and it was the year that I had done probably the best I've ever done, as far as income was concerned. And when you came back and you told me that you couldn't get me a mortgage through, a B lender or through the banks or whatever, and the only mortgage that I could qualify for was a reverse mortgage. Like, what? And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I had enough, with the struggles constantly with that an investor goes through trying to get financing to get the next project, to hold, a project long term, whether it would be a burr or something along those lines. I'd had enough, and I decided to start looking elsewhere, and I ended up discovering, I figured, let's see what the United States has to offer. I mean, it's just across the border. Let's see what it would take to invest down there. And anyway, so I started looking down there, and I found the Midwest, which is, Ohio and a couple of those other states there, Michigan and so on. And I started looking at the price point that they had down there, and it was just because it was so inexpensive. At the time when I started, probably 5 years ago now, the price points down there, and I mean, still some of the cities down there are still the same, but Cleveland, where I'm focused, has bumped up in price, in value anyways, in the last little while. But so anyways, I found the Midwest. I ended up going to Cleveland, checking that out, and was amazed that half of their population rents. And I mean, it's a population, the greater Cleveland area anyways, is a population of about just shy of 3 million. And so with 50% of that population renting, most of what they had already in properties, the type of properties were already purpose-built rentals, duplexes, triplexes, quads. Even when you get into the commercial side, I mean, the price point was inexpensive. It was old, and most of the stuff that we end up purchasing, we end up renovating. But it was, the numbers were beautiful, and I ended up focusing more on subsidized housing, which is the Section 8 program down in the United States. It's basically the government is paying a portion of the tenant's rent. And so, I pulled the trigger on a couple, and was the first one that I bought in Cleveland. I mean, I couldn't make any more mistakes, I think, than I did, and had the problems that I did. As far as setting up the corporations and everything, that if you're going to be a long-term investor, you should set up, that was piece of cake. I found a lawyer. He ended up being probably the best lawyer in the United States for setting something like this up. Probably the most expensive as well, but nonetheless, set that up and bought my first couple of properties down there. The first one in Cleveland, I mean, was a duplex, and I bought it for $35,000 US. So
Wow.
now, with that price point, I mean, I ended up purchasing it in probably the roughest neighborhood possible. It needed $60,000 worth of work, to get it up to the standards that I was comfortable with. And anyways, by the time we were done, it appraised for $150,000. But I had also, had a project manager that stole a bunch of my money, contractor problems, you name it, I hit it face first, you know. And so, anyways, it was a big learning experience on that first one. And so from there, I decided to, I saw that the fact, the writing on the wall was that there's going to be more Canadians coming down this way, given the price points that we're dealing with in Ontario, and just landlord tenant board issues that, I mean, it's just unfriendly where it is in Ontario. And when start people start hearing about Ohio and how landlord friendly it is and the price point, the cash flow, you're going to see, I mean, it's already happening, right? And I think part of the uptick in the value of properties that I've seen in Ohio, or in general anyways, has to do a lot with, with the wave of Canadian investors that are coming down. I don't have any numbers to prove that or whatnot, but it just, in the curve that I've seen in Cleveland alone, I mean, it's, every week I get an email from my realtor down in Cleveland who says, "Yeah, I've got, five more people from Canada that need your help to get going down here, and they need some mentorship, blah blah blah." So anyway, I decided to start helping other Canadians get set up. The fact is that once people get set up down there, and they might have one, or maybe trying to do it on their own and live their life here, it's a lot of work. Even if you have a property manager down here, I find myself going down to Cleveland almost every other month. I'm actually leaving tomorrow, for another trip to Cleveland, and I'm going to be staying a month this time to find more or to see them, because I like to put eyes on the the quality of construction down there. It's old construction, right? So it's very difficult to have enough trust in your contractor to do it from up here, unless you're willing to let them, or have those headaches come up and deal with them as you go forward. I like, when I renovate
Mhm.
something, I like to get rid of any future headaches for at least the next 5 years, and
Yeah.
and bump the value up through those renovations as well. But anyways, so I help, other Canadians come down to the United States, get set up. I've gone as far as getting my E2 visa, so I have some input. I can help with that as well. I have contacts and whatnot that are fantastic, and helped me get my E2 visa. And but whether it be through joint ventures, or other avenues of investing in my projects, people can get involved with my own projects as well. I have a mentorship program that essentially I help somebody go from start to finish on at least one house, and divulge all of the details that they'll need as far as finding good contractors, finding the appropriate professionals in there. And now, something that you and I are working on to for the financing. I'm excited about. We're. I think we can do a bang up job. I mean, you guys have some phenomenal resources as far as the the lenders, right? I don't know if you want to dive into that.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. And yeah, I mean, this is not necessarily about me today. I wanted to share your stuff, but yeah, you're right. I mean, we have over 25,000 lenders. One of our loan officers that is on the team, he actually owns more than 20 properties in and around Ohio already. And he just won, right? We've just hired a guy that lives in Florida. So he's from Canada, moved to Florida just like a few years ago, and he's been building his portfolio there as well. So we're really like boots on the ground, and I think the thing that's important with us is that we're all investors. So I think that's really important. We're not just some regular broker or lender saying, "Oh yeah, we have these products," right? We're investors. We get it. We can help. So super cool stuff. Now, for somebody who's listening, right, and they're hearing this and they're thinking like, I love what Carlos is saying. How do I get in touch with them? How do I partner with them? Do you have like a directory of all of your resources, or how should somebody reach out to you?
If people want to reach out to me, the first thing that I would suggest is signing up on my email list at cashflowcarlos.com. It's just a landing page that I've set up. But if you want to get in touch with me, you can call my office at 419-318-8424. That's it's an American number, but I'm back and forth. You'll get me whether I'm in the United States or in Canada. But that's my office number. Sign up on the email list is the best way to get information on what I'm doing. I'm trying to get better at TikToks and Instagrams and all that stuff, but it's a lot of work to edit that stuff and get it the way that I want. You can hand it off, but I like to get my hands dirty. So, but as far as comparing the GTA, for example, investing in the GTA and investing in Cleveland or maybe anywhere else in the United States for that matter, it's the same, but it's different. You know what I mean? Like in the GTA, we've been spoiled for the last 25 years, 25 years, something like that. We're closer to the end of that period. It didn't really matter what you were buying. You could hold it for a little while and it would appreciate. Or, you didn't have to really do a lot of renovations to a rental property and you could still increase the rents over a period of time. When tenants would leave. But in the States, I mean, especially Cleveland, anyways. I mean, it's changing because there's a lot of competition coming into the area. If you're going to go down there, it's for cash flow. You're not going there for necessarily for huge swaths of value increase, right? I mean, it can happen if you buy right, and there are circumstances where it is much easier to buy something under value in the United States. There's a lot more opportunity in that type of scenario. Off market deals and so on and so forth. There's a lot more wholesalers that you can deal with. Obviously, you have to go through a few to find the right ones that are they understand everybody has to make money. There's some wholesalers that will want to they'll find an off-market property and then try to basically milk it of all the equity that it has through the sale, right? And everybody wants to make $30,000 on every sale, which is kind of ridiculous. So, but you definitely have to know where you're buying, what you're buying, because I mean you can go from one block to the next, and just that little difference can be the difference between buying something in a war zone and buying something in war zone. I mean I use that very loosely. It's not as
like wartime houses.
Well, it's wartime. I mean, it's older houses. You could buy like everything down there there's a lot of siding, and it's all wood. And then if you don't know about lead certification and the renovations that need to happen beforehand, if you get caught with that on the back end, you could end up with a huge remediation bill. So it's there's stuff like point of sale inspections. the different municipalities around Cleveland. Cleveland proper itself doesn't have the point of sale inspection yet, but all of the little municipalities around it have started implementing this. And basically, it's an inspection when, if I wanted to sell a house down there, the city will come in, inspect for deferred maintenance or anything that they want to see repaired before the next person takes over. And I mean, it can be stuff like a cracked sidewalk or a staircase that is, it's never been touched, but now the inspector has said, okay, well, this is out of code. You got to bring it to code and redo your steps or something along those lines. Or they don't like the fact that there's holes in the screens or something along those. They can nitpick, but basically they come in, they do an inspection, and some cities will give you, they'll estimate how much they think it'll be repair that list, and then you have to take $1.25 for every dollar that they've estimated and put it in escrow, and then go do the repairs, or somebody has to do the repairs, whether it be the seller or the purchaser, before they'll release that money. All right, so it can be a double-edged sword. Anyways, but
that might be good when you're buying, right? If you're buying a distressed property, that might be good.
It can be. I mean, it can be a really great negotiating tactic, to come back and say, listen, the city's, got $50,000 worth of work here. I mean, you got to come to the table a little bit, or whatever it may be. Yeah. But for example, one of the very first really sweet deals that I was looking at was 16 townhouses, okay, in one of the nicer municipalities of Cleveland. I think it was Cleveland Heights. That 16 townhouses for $1.2 million. It would have cash flowed by the time we were done about $20,000 a month. And like, wow, finding $1.2 million. I mean, just the down payment and renovation money wouldn't have been that difficult, but it was in Cleveland Heights. Cleveland Heights has got a point of sale inspection. They want $1.30 for every dollar that they estimate on their point of sale inspection. The list was about $250,000 worth of repairs. So not only would I have had to come up with the $250,000 plus 30% to put into escrow, but I'd have to come up with another $250,000 to actually do the work. You know what I mean? So it built up very quickly, and being one of the first properties, I chickened out. But
yeah, you got to start a little small, right? A little bit smaller, and then grow into that.
It was definitely tempting, though. I mean, beautiful townhouses in a really great area. It was right next to an elementary school. I mean, literally around the corner from an elementary school. Anyway, it still hurts.
Well, I'm sure another one will come up. But for now, we're going to wrap up. I'll put your email list link and your phone number for your office into the show notes so everybody can reach out to you. And I do appreciate you for coming on, Carlos.
Anytime.
Welcome to the Wisdom Lifestyle Money Show. I'm your host, Scott Dillingham. The show is designed to help Canadians invest better in Canada and the United States. We specialize in mortgage financing and education in both countries. Discover how you can become a better investor and access the financing you need.